Title: Milo and the Magic Paintbrush. Once, in a quiet little village surrounded by whispering forests and sunlit hills, there lived a boy named Milo. He was no ordinary boy, not because he had wealth or power, but because he saw beauty where others saw nothing. When other children played in the streets, Milo sat near the edge of the village pond, sketching the ripples on the water, the curve of the clouds, and the way sunlight painted gold on the leaves. He had no real paints, only an old, half-broken brush, and a few bits of colored chalk that he'd gathered from the school where he helped clean after classes. But still, every line he drew seemed to carry a kind of life in it, as if the world leaned closer to see what he might create next. Milo lived with his grandmother in a small wooden cottage at the far end of the village. She was kind and gentle, but poor. Every night she would tell him stories by the fire, stories of dragons sleeping under mountains, rivers that could talk, and ancient magic hidden in plain sight.
My dear boy, the world has forgotten that magic once belonged to those with good hearts. But maybe one day someone will remind it.
Maybe that someone could be me.
Then you'll need a little magic of your own.
That night, when everyone in the village was asleep and the storm had softened to a whisper, Milo saw something outside his window, a faint glow, like a candle floating through the mist. Curious, he stepped outside, barefoot on the damp earth. The light drifted toward the old willow tree by the pond, where he often drew during the day. As he approached, he noticed something caught in the roots, a small paintbrush, its handle carved from smooth wood, its bristles shining faintly as though made from threads of starlight. He picked it up, and for a moment, everything around him grew still. The rain stopped, the wind hushed. Then, as his fingers wrapped around the brush, a strange warmth ran up his arm. It felt alive. The brush gave off a tiny shimmer, as if answering, "Try me." Back inside, he lit a candle and placed a scrap of paper on the table. Dipping the brush into an old cup of rainwater, he hesitated, then painted a single line. To his amazement, the line shimmered, rose from the paper, and turned into a real, fluttering feather. He gasped and dropped the brush. The feather drifted gently into his hand. Milo's heart pounded. Could this really be happening? He tried again. A bird this time, small and blue. The brush moved almost on its own, and when he lifted it, the bird blinked, shook its wings, and chirped before flying out the window into the night. He stayed awake until dawn, painting tiny wonders. A loaf of bread for breakfast, a candle that never melted, a wooden toy horse that galloped like a real one.
Milo, where did you get this?
He hesitated, then told her everything. She listened quietly, her eyes shining not with fear, but pride. "You've been given a gift, my boy, but remember, magic tests the heart of whoever holds it. Use it for kindness, and it will bless you. Use it for greed, and it will destroy you." Milo nodded solemnly. From that day on, he used the brush to help the people of his village. When the baker ran out of flour, Milo painted sacks of grain. When a farmer's cow fell ill, he painted a new calf. When the school roof leaked, he painted tiles that shone like the morning sky. Word spread quickly. Soon everyone knew of the boy who could paint life into being. The villagers loved him, though some whispered that such magic was dangerous. And far away, in the cold stone castle on the hill, someone else heard the story too. Lord Graven, the ruler of that land. A cruel man, obsessed with gold and power, who cared for nothing but filling his treasury.
A brush that brings anything to life? With that, I could have endless gold, an army of painted soldiers, even a kingdom that bows to my will.
He sent his guards to bring the boy to him.
By order of Lord Graven, the boy painter is summoned to the castle.
The villagers tried to protect him, but they were powerless. Milo was taken away, his magic brush glinting faintly in his pocket.
Ah, the famous painter. I've heard much about you.
My lord, I only wish to help others, not—
Graven waved his hand. "Yes, yes, save your humble words. You will paint for me now. Paint me a mountain of gold.
Sir, my grandmother taught me that magic must serve good, not greed.
If you do not paint what I ask, I'll lock you in the dungeon, and your grandmother will suffer."
Milo's heart sank. He had no choice. With a trembling hand, he began to paint. The brush glowed brighter than ever before, but as the mountain of gold shimmered into life, the brush quivered in his hand, almost as if it were resisting. Suddenly, the paint on the floor began to twist, melting into streams that slithered like serpents. The golden mountain cracked apart, and out of it poured molten gold that hardened into towering statues that moved. The soldiers shouted in terror as the golden figures turned on them, chasing them out of the hall.
Stop this at once!
I didn't mean to. The brush isn't listening.
The brush pulsed with light, and Milo realized it was angry. The magic wasn't meant for greed or cruelty. He seized control as best he could and painted a great cage of silver light around the gold creatures. They froze, then crumbled into dust.
Enough. Take that brush away from him.
Before the guards could reach him, Milo painted a door on the wall and jumped through it. On the other side, he found himself outside beneath the stormy sky. He ran down the hill, through the dark forest, until he reached the edge of a cliff overlooking the sea. Behind him, torches flickered in the distance, soldiers chasing him.
What do I do now?
The brush shimmered faintly, as if answering, "Trust me." He dipped it into the air and painted a boat, small but sturdy. As the soldiers drew near, he leaped into the painted boat, which turned real just as it hit the waves. The sea swallowed him, and the castle lights vanished into the mist. Days passed. The ocean carried him far from his homeland, to a place where the sky was pink with sunrise, and the sand glittered like glass. He found a quiet shore and built a small hut. There, he painted food, flowers, and birds to keep him company. But he missed his grandmother. So one evening, he painted a path of stars leading across the sky, hoping it would guide him home.
The brush chose you, my child, because your heart is pure. But even magic must rest. The world must learn to create without it.
When he woke, the brush lay beside him, its glow dimmer now, like a candle burning low. Milo understood. He returned to his village months later. The people ran to him with joy. His grandmother was weak, but still alive. He told her everything, about the castle, the sea, and how the brush had begun to fade.
Then it's time to return it.
Milo walked back to the pond under the willow tree, where he had first found it. The air was still, the water calm. He held the brush up one last time, whispering, "Thank you." As he dropped it into the water, the surface glowed, ripples spread outward, shimmering in every color imaginable. Then, as the light faded, the pond returned to its quiet reflection of the sky. From that day onward, Milo continued to paint, not with magic, but with his own hands, his own colors, and his own heart. And somehow, his art still felt alive, even without enchantment. Children from nearby villages would come to watch him work, amazed at how his paintings seemed to breathe, how the waves on his canvas looked ready to crash, how the birds seemed poised to fly.
Milo, is your brush still magic? Maybe the magic was never in the brush at all.
Years later, after his grandmother had passed peacefully, Milo became a great artist known across the land. But he never painted for fame or wealth. He painted to remind people that beauty and kindness were still the truest forms of magic. And sometimes, on quiet nights when the moonlight touched the pond, those who walked by swore they saw a faint glow beneath the water, like a tiny paintbrush sleeping in the depths, waiting for another pure heart to find it. Music swells, soft, emotional tones. As time went on, legends of Milo and the magic paintbrush spread to every corner of the world. People told the story to their children, not just as a tale of wonder, but as a reminder that the greatest magic lies not in what we hold, but in how we use it. For every hand that paints with love, every heart that creates with kindness, carries a spark of that same light. Music fades to a gentle hum. And if you ever sit beneath an old willow tree by a quiet pond, and you feel the air shimmer just a little, maybe, just maybe, the magic is still there, waiting for you.